Okay, so we are at Daf Kof Chafhe 125, and we're going to be discussing two topics today, both related to mukseh. The first one is continuing to talk about something that is a vessel, and so therefore I can use it. It's not mukseh. If it breaks, what about pieces of things that break? And within that, we have two items. One is clothing, and the second one is an oven. Oven seems to be a special category. So broken piece of clothing and broken piece of an oven, do they retain their status as a utensil, or now do they become mukseh? And then we're going to get to the next Mishnah, which is about when something that is mukseh is attached to something that is not mukseh. And so now that they're attached, so does the mukseh item become usable because it's attached or used together with the regular utensil? That'll be the Mishnah that's coming up. Okay, so we start with the piece of clothing or a mat. Amad bar hamedori hamar Shmuel kirumiyot shel machselet mutalet telam beShabbat. If I have a mat usually I put it on the floor and I sit on it so I don't sit on the dirt. And now the mat is wearing away and there's just a shred or a little piece of the mat. What is the law? Is that mukseh, or can I use it and sit on it? So he says it's allowed. I'm allowed to use it. My tama, why? Amarava bar hamedori asber ali. Rava said I was talking to bar hamedora and he explained it to me. Interesting. Shmuel is the first generation. Rava is the fourth generation, and yet this bar hamedori must have been in between, and so he must have been young enough to speak to Shmuel and then old enough to speak to Rava also. So he said that mahaselet gufa lemay chazia lechasoye be'afra anename chazia lechasoye be'huti nofet. That what do you use a mat for? To cover the dirt, so you can sit on it. So too, this piece of it, although it's shredded, it's still okay. It's still usable. So therefore, it's a usable utensil. Next paragraph has a similar case. Amar Bizera Amarav sheyareh perov miyot asur l'taltelan beShabbat. The remains of a cloak or a cloth, you cannot. It's mukseh. The cloth itself would be fine, but now the piece of it is not, which is the opposite of Shmuel. So why is this different? Amar Abaye b'matlaniyot she'en bahen shalosh al shalosh terach hazyan la la'aniyim ve'la la'ashirim. The reason that Rav said it's not allowed is not because he disagrees with Shmuel, but rather he's talking about a case where the pieces of it are very small, less than 3 by 3 hand breadths. In other words, like less than a foot square. And those are really not usable for anything. Not all, rich people certainly wouldn't use it. Even poor people, when something's that small, they just get rid of it. And therefore, it's not a utensil anymore when it's that small. Okay, now we get to the topic that will take most of the time, which is about an oven, broken pieces of an oven. So we have a Tosefta that teaches. Tanur Banan, Shivre Tanur Yashan, Arehen Kechol HaKelim Anitalin BeHaser. The pieces of an old oven. When it says old oven, it doesn't mean that it's very old. This means it was used already. A used oven, once it's used, then the baking, the heat makes the clay hard. And that way, when it breaks, those hard shards of earthenware are usable for other things, like making a cover. So these broken pieces can be used like any other pieces of utensils that are found in the courtyard. That's the first opinion. He says, no, you cannot use them. If you remember before, the pre-Mishnah that we're talking about that we had yesterday, the Yehuda also was mahmir regarding shards. He said you can only use shards for the same use as it was that the utensil was. So if you have a bowl, you can only use a shard as a small bowl, right? So he's mahmir in this Tosefta as well. It says you can't use the shards of an oven. We have now a third opinion, but we'll only get to it later. So don't worry about this third opinion here so much. First of all, he brings a proof that, in fact, halacha is like the first opinion, the Meir, that you can use shards of an oven. And also he adds, that a cover of an oven, even if it has no handle, it's still usable, right? You might have thought if it has no handle, it's just a piece of round thing, and so maybe it's not a utensil. No, it's still a utensil, and so you can still handle it. It's not mukseh. All right, that was the Tosefta. And we want to analyze this Tosefta. We're going to bring three different interpretations of what case it's talking about and what they are arguing about. What is Rabbi Meir, who's Mekel, and Rabbi Yehuda, who's Machmir? What are they arguing about? First opinion, Amar Abaye, ve'osin me'ayin melacha ve'en osin me'en melachtan kami palge. As that Rabbi Yehuda l'tameh, Rabbi Meir l'tameh. It could be, it's based on what the Mishnah already said about these two opinions, that the first opinion of Rabbi Meir, he generally says that any a piece of something, as long as it's usable for any melacha, it's okay. So here, an oven is used usually for cooking. Even though now it's broken, it's okay. I can use the shards for something else, like to cover a jug, and that's why Rabbi Meir says that's allowed. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda follows his own opinion, and he says you can only use something that's broken for the same use that it was when it was whole. And when it was whole, it was an oven. Now it's broken. What are you going to do with a shard of clay? How are you going to cook something with inside a shard of clay? You can't. And so since it's not usable for the same purpose, it's not usable at all, and therefore these shards are mukseh. Okay, so Abaye makes a lot of sense, right? That's very interesting. However, Rava comes and disputes. If that's the case, then why do you need to say that they're arguing about the pieces of an oven? Say the pieces of any utensil. An oven is no different from anything else, right? There's nothing special about the oven. It's just another application of the same thing that they say about all utensils. So therefore, that can't be what they're talking about, because this should be something interesting about an oven that has to say an old oven here. So Rava instead has another solution. Rava's is the most complicated one, and it's going to be rejected by Rav Ashi in any case. But let's see how he interprets it. It's talking about a special kind of oven. I'm going to introduce the oven first, and then I'll read the text. I think that'll be clearer that way. In general, an oven in those days was made out of like a cylinder made out of clay, and it was attached to the ground and you put mortar all around it, and then you would have, there might be in the ground or a small ditch inside the ground that it's on top of, and you put the fire inside, right? Here's a hole here, and then you put the fire on the ground or in a pit, and then you put the food up on top inside the oven. But the oven was attached to the ground. Now, this Mishnah we're going to quote is from Masechet Kelim about Tumah and Tahara. In general, if something is attached to the ground, then it cannot become tameh, right? House cannot become tameh. Pipe that's in the ground cannot become tameh. It's important for plumbing and different things. However, the oven is an exception. An oven, even though it's attached to the ground, that's still mekabel tum'ah, because that's the way it's used. The utensil is one that is attached to the ground. So an oven is an exception to the rule. So everyone agrees with all of that. What we're going to find a disagreement about is, what if I have an oven, it's the cylinder that's on the ground or on a hole in the ground, on a pit, and instead of cementing it in, I use some rocks. I take a couple of rocks and I wedge it into the ground so that it won't move and it'll be sealed up, but just rocks. So it's not quite attached to the ground. It's not a usual kind of oven, and it won't be very efficient because you see there might be holes all around. That's the case that we're talking about. If something like this breaks, then what do we consider it? Okay, so let's now that we introduced it, let's see let's see it inside. Here's the Mishnah in Kelim Titanan. Netano al pi habod or al pi hadut v'natan sham even. You take an oven and you put it on top of a hole or a cistern, and you put a rock there to prop it up. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, if in that case I can put the fire down inside in the pit, and it will get hot, and I can put the food up on top and use it like a regular oven, then it's tameh like a regular oven, even though it's not cemented in. That's okay, everybody agrees. In lav tahor, however, if it won't get hot that way, I have to build a shelf and put the fire higher up because it's too much air coming in, then it's not an oven and it's tahor. Even something tameh touches it, it will never become tameh. That's Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. This is once you use it as an oven, doesn't matter if it's attached to the ground or not, and even if it's not an efficient oven, it still is tameh, and it doesn't matter. Okay, so we have here that we have a machloket between Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim here, and so Rava is saying that this makes sense that when he says an oven, it has to be something special about an oven. That's why he rejected the first opinion. So he says, what's special about an oven? Well, this is a special kind of oven in that we have a machloket about whether it's tameh or not, whether it's considered really an oven in a case where it's not efficient and it's coming out. And so that's the case where the Yehuda was talking about. And he said that the oven that's not efficient is because not attached and it's not getting heated up. In that case, it's not a utensil. Because it's not a utensil, it doesn't become tameh. And also, you can't use it on Shabbat. And if it breaks, you can't use the broken pieces because it's mukseh. Anything that's not a utensil is mukseh. And in here, Chachamim is equivalent to the Bimeir. Chachamim say, no matter what, even if it's not an efficient one, it's not attached to the ground, it still is a utensil. And therefore, since it is a utensil, when it breaks, the broken parts are also utensil. And that's what he was talking about in this Tosefta, when he says that you can use the broken parts. So this Tosefta lines up with this Mishnah. This is Rava's opinion. Rav Ashi is going to end up questioning him and saying, well, what's the difference? Why mention that it's broken pieces? They argue even if it's whole. So the broken pieces is just the same as if it's whole. Why is it important if it's talking about broken pieces, right? Up in the Tosefta, this Mishnah is talking about it's whole, but it wouldn't matter if it's broken or not. And so there's nothing special about that. So that's how he's going to reject it. Okay, but before we reject it, we're going to just analyze these two sides a little bit more. So b'may mipalgeh. What is the essence of their machloket, right? Compared to the pasuk, where they both are learning the law from a verse. It's talking about a carcass of an animal that falls on something. If it's an oven or a stove, it has to be broken into pieces. That means yutatz. It can never become tameh because made out of clay, you can't make it tahor. Sorry, it can never become tahor. It has to be yutas, has to be smashed. And then the pasuk adds, Tameim yulachem. It will always be tameh. That's the pasuk. Now the rabbi is going to interpret it differently. If something is lacking smashing, that's a roundabout way of saying it's whole and it's usable, right, and attached to the ground and good, right? Then it's tameh because it's something that can be smashed because right now it's good. But if it's en mechusa netisa, in other words, if it's not attached to the ground, and so you can't even smash it more because it's already broken, right? Even if it's whole, but it's not being attached to the ground means you can't smash it. Then it's tahor. So that's how he says. It's just word yutatz has specific meaning that it can be broken off of the ground, and so that's where he derives his law. Rabbanan look at the rest of the pasuk and says Tameim miyu lachem. They will be tameh. So that includes anything mikol makom, whether it's attached to the ground or whether it's propped up with stones. It will be tameh in any case. Now we're going to ask in typical fashion, what will each side do with the other side's proof from the pasuk? But Rabbanan nameh haketib yutatz. Rabbanan doesn't say something smashed. Oh, hahu leidach kisa tasaka datechamina kevan dehabere bara kegufa dar adameh kamashmalan. I need that actually to teach the other way around. I would have thought that since it's attached to the ground, in the case where it is actually attached to the ground, I would have thought this is like anything attached to the ground, which cannot become tameh. So therefore, yutatz has to come and teach that if it has to be smashed, and that's the only way it becomes tahor. Meaning, even when it's attached to the ground, this oven is exceptional. When it is attached to the ground, it still becomes tameh. That's what I use that pasuk for. And ve'idach nameh hakatib tamim yulachem. According to the Yehuda, there's an inclusive phrase at the end of the verse. They are all tameh. What does he do with that? Shemuel said that this whole discussion is only talking about when I first used the oven. The first time I used the oven, that's what defines what it is. So the first time I used the oven has to be attached to the ground, or has to be propped in, well insulated. But if I use it once as an oven, then even if the next time I detach it and it's hanging as if from a camel's neck, right? It's just a funny image. Have an oven hanging from a camel's neck. I guess they're picking something tall and strong that could handle an oven. And I use it as a portable. I guess this is their toaster oven, right? Portable oven. Then it's still an oven. In other words, because the first time I used it was attached to the ground, even if afterwards it's not, it retains its definition. And it is an oven, and that's what he learns. That's what Yehuda will learn from the end of the pasuk of Timeim Yiyu Lachem. Whereas for the Rabbanan, Ula explains, according to the rabbis against the Yehuda, even if the first time I use it, it's in the air, portable, it doesn't matter. I'm using it as an oven, even if it's not efficient, it's still called an oven and will become tameh. Okay, so now we got the different proofs of the two opinions here, and so that was all the opinion of Rava, who said that the machloket in this baraita, in this tosefta here about the broken kelim is talking about this kind of oven. However, Rav Ashi rejects it now. Matkif la Rav Ashi, ihachia de mepalge b'shibre tanur, lepalgu betanur gufa. If that's what they're talking about, then why would they have to phrase the machloket as we're arguing about the pieces of an oven? Even a whole oven, they have the same machloket. And so this doesn't fit with the details in this Tosefta. If the entire oven wasn't used attached to the ground for the first time, is not a vessel, then of course the broken pieces are not a vessel. It's not interesting. It'll be interesting if something is a vessel and then when it breaks, it becomes not a vessel. So we reject that. And the third and final answer, it's talking about what we were originally talking about, just the regular oven and the shards. And it's talking about this case, which is very interesting. If I take the pieces, I have an oven, now it broke, I take the clay pieces and I make a ceramic board, kind of like a hot plate or a griddle. And then I use it to cook on top of the broken pieces of the oven, right? See, so now this is brilliant because I'm using the pieces of the oven for cooking, for the same use, for the same purpose. So to be meir lidvarav to the Yehuda kamar. To be meir, he is saying to the Yehuda, according to you, right? According to me, if something is broken, it retains its status as a vessel, and I can use it for any purpose. I could take the shards of earthenware from an oven or from a bowl and use it as a cover or anything else. But even according to you, even according to you to Yehuda, and you, because you say that the broken pieces have to be used for the same purpose as the whole utensil was used, you should agree that in this case, the broken pieces of an oven, I can make a griddle out of, and it's still cooking. And so therefore, they should continue to be, continue to be usable and not mukseh. That's what the Bimei says. The Yehuda says, no, I won't even agree in that case because they're not similar. Two differences. Hatam, it was an oven. I cook on the inside of the oven, the inside part of the earthenware. Whereas when I make a griddle out of it, I'm cooking on top of it. What if you flip it over? Would he agree then? I don't know. But that's not the way it was done. Furthermore, the oven is upright. Right? Generally, you'd put either a pot on top of the oven, or you would put dough stick it on the walls of the oven. And so it was upright. Here, you're turning it around and using it as a griddle horizontally. So, and not using, it has to be exactly using in the same way as before. And this is not the case here. And so we leave this with Rav Ashi, that Tosefta, talking about broken parts of an oven, is talking about this case of a broken oven that you use as a griddle. Okay, now that when we go to the last part of that Tosefta, where the Bioseh agrees with the Rabbi Meir, and he adds something about the hand, the cover, even if it has no handle. Amar Rabina, Keman metartelina an ha'idana, kisui de tanure de mata mechaseya, then lahem bet achiza. Says nowadays we are lenient and we handle the covers of an oven that have no handles, so it's just a plain thing. It doesn't look quite like a utensil. We follow Keman Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. We follow this opinion of Rabbi Eliezer Yaakov that the Bioseh testified that he said it's allowed. That's a good authority, and that's what we follow. Okay, so we finished the topic of when you have something that was a utensil and now it's broken. And now we're going to move on to the next Mishnah, which is the topic of something that is a utensil attached to something that is mukseh. And they're used together. Now what is its status, right? Does the mukseh part follow the utensil part and all become usable? In general, it does. We see three different cases in the Mishnah. Ha'even sheba keduya, im memalein ba ve'ena nofelet memalein ba, ve'im lav en memalein ba. Okay, in those days, they used to, as a bottle, they used to use a gourd. I remember watching the video from Innovation Africa, how the people there, when they would find a Coke bottle, right, just a plastic Coke bottle, it's like, oh, they would keep it, they would use it, right? This is an important thing, and we just throw it out. So it's not simple to have a bottle that's waterproof. So in those days, olden days, it would sometimes use a gourd, hollow out the gourd, and it has a hard skin, and you would fill it up with water. The problem with the gourd is that it's very light, and if you want to go fill it up with water from the lake, then right, it's hard to fill up. So they would put a stone inside, and that would make it heavy, and then you could fill it up. So the question is, what about the stone that's inside the gourd, the gourd jug? Stones in general are mukseh. So the answer is, if when you fill it up, the stones remains inside, then it's okay, you can use it. But if let's say it's like an open gourd, and then you go and fill it up, and while you're doing that, the stone falls out, the stone is not really part of it, then the stone is mukseh. And then you can't use it. Okay, that's case number one. Case number two is, I have a pitcher and I have a vine branch attached to the pitcher that I'm going to use to lower down into a well and then pick it back up. You can use it. That's okay, even though a vine generally will be mukseh, but here it's attached to the jug, and so the jug makes it part of it and usable. And the last example is kahalon, or window shutters, right? In those that they had windows, which were just open air, and when they wanted to close them, they take a board of wood and stick it into the hole. Generally, these were attached somehow with a string, then they would kind of hang out there, and then they put them back when they wanted to. If it is attached there and hanging, then it's obvious that this is specifically for this window. It's a good utensil that's needed for it, and so we can use it. And however, otherwise not, because really it's just a piece of wood. It's just a loose piece of wood hanging out, and this board would be mukseh otherwise, and so you can't use it. It has to be attached. That doesn't matter if it's attached or not. It's clear this is a window shutter, and you can always use it. Okay, those are the three cases, and let's analyze each one by one. Tenan hatam ben shalpia chavit mata al sida vehin nofelet. Mishnah later on that we're going to see, it says if I have a barrel and I didn't have the cover, so instead I use a stone and I put it on top of the barrel. The problem is the stone is mukseh. Now I want to access the barrel on Shabbat. I can't remove the stone that's mukseh. What I can do is I can tilt it, and the stone falls off by itself. Then Mishnah continues and says, if it's in a spot where it's difficult and where I can't tilt it, and then I can move the whole thing and tilt it there, and that would be okay. That's the Mishnah. We have two interpretations of this Mishnah, both in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. The first one more machmir, the second one more mekel. This is a very nice structured sugya we're going to see. So just keep all the names in mind because they're each going to come up in these two different schools. The first one that's Mahmir is in the name of Rabbah, Amar Rabbi Ameh, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbah is in Bavel, Rabbi Ameh is in Eretz Yisrael, but they both taught in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Lo shanu ela b'shochayach, ava b'maniach na'asa basis l'davar hasur. This thing that you can do, that you can move it, take it and tilt it, this is talking about if I forgot it there. I forgot the stone there. I didn't put it on purpose. It just happened to be there. But if I put it there on purpose, then it becomes a basis of something that is prohibited. And then I cannot move the barrel from one place to another, right? Because it's being there on purpose actually makes it worse. That's the Mahmir opinion. Rav Yosef, Amar Rabbi Aseh, Rav Yosef in Bavel, Rabbi Aseh in Israel. They both say, and also in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Lo shanu ela b'shocheach. We switch it around. This whole halacha is talking about if I forgot it there. Aval b'maniach nasa kisur lachabit. If I put it there on purpose, then that's a good thing. That means I had in mind that this will be a cover of a barrel. So even though it's just a stone, but I had in mind that it'll be a cover. So doing that, right, putting it on top, converts it from a stone that is mukseh to a utensil, to a cover. Okay, so what we're going to see here is that the second opinion of Rav Yosef and the Rabbi Aseh think that all you need to do to make something not mukseh is just think about it, right? It's very simple. You say, oh, that stone, I'm going to use it for something that's useful. Whereas the first opinion says, if you're going to use a stone and you want to make it not mukseh, you got to do something. You got to take that stone, you got to shave it down, you got to shape it, you got to smooth it, right? And that only by doing something, you change it into a utensil. Stone by itself, just by thinking about it, doesn't change it. That's the essence of the machloket, as we'll see in a second. Okay, Amar Rabbah. Now Rabbah, that's the first opinion, Rabbah. He says, okay, the reason why we brought all these things is because related to our Mishnah, as Rabbah is going to say. Rabbah says, Motninan ashma'atin. I says, I can ask a question to my own opinion from this Mishnah. But he also answers it as follows. It says, if I have a gourd and it has a stone inside, if the stone does not fall out, then I can use the gourd with the stone inside. So you see here is a case where I can use the permitted utensil even though it has a stone attached to it, and that's allowed. Well, that would seem to contradict what he says here. We have a stone on top of a barrel, and he says you can't move it. So isn't that a contradiction? Rabbah says, I got it, figure it out. Velohi hatam kivan hadekah shavya dofen. In that case of the gourd, obviously it was attached to it well, and that's why it doesn't fall out even in the water. And so it's all one, it's like part of the wall, and that's why it's allowed. Over here, it's just a cover, it's not attached well, and that's why it's not allowed. Rav Yosef does the same thing, does the same exercise. Rav Yosef is the second opinion, who's more lenient, and he says just by thinking about the stone on top, that makes it a utensil. Says, Motvinan mashmati, and I'm going to ask a question to myself from this Mishnah, but he'll also answer it. If the stone falls out of the gourd, then you can't use the gourd to fill it up with water. So you see that here we have a stone with a gourd, and you can use it, and that seems to contradict what he said because you have a stone on top of a barrel, and he said you can use it. So how do we resolve this? In that case of the gourd, because it was not attached, you see it's going to fall out, so therefore it's not part of it, and I can't use the stone, it's not part of the utensil. But here, when I had in mind to use it as a cover of the barrel, it is part of the utensil, and that's why I can use it. Okay, that's why we brought this whole thing here, actually to prove that it's not a proof either way. And now that we brought it up, let's analyze it a little bit further. This is very interesting. What is at the essence of the machloket? Mor savar ba'inan ma'aseh. The first opinion, right, up here, of Rabbah and Rabbi Ameh, say that in order to use something, you need to do something. You need to change it physically in order to convert it from just a stone to something that is usable. And the second set of sages, right, Rabbi Yosef says that you don't have to actually do anything. Just thinking about it is enough to convert its status from mukseh to not mukseh. And in fact, they practice what they preach because here was a case. Here's a story. Was a student of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, and here's the story he tells. One time they were all traveling, and Rabbi found a bunch of stones. Usually that would be used for building stones. And this was Friday, and Shabbat's coming, and so he's preparing for Shabbat. He told the students, go over there and think about those stones, right? In other words, have in mind that we're going to sit on them tomorrow. That's a nice place to sit around, and that's where we'll hang out and we'll study. But if mukseh, it means you can't, well, it's an interesting question, whether you can just sit on something mukseh, right? Because you're not moving it. But maybe they want to move them around also. So he says, go there and think about the stones, and then that way they will not be mukseh. And he didn't ask them to do anything. That's how the story was told originally. However, Rabbi Yochanan Amar, he also studied with Rabbi. He says, no, that wasn't the case. He did make them do an act. Maya Amar Lehu, what act did he say to do? Rabbi Amar, up above was the Mahmir opinion. He said, go and arrange the stones. You actually have to move them around and put them in the right spot, and that will make them into utensils. Amar Lehu. Rabbi Yaseh Amar, Amar Lehu. He said, go and just wipe them off. That's all you have to do. In other words, much simpler, just a small act, that's all, and that will turn them into utensils. So you see that Rabbi Ami is Mahmir and Rabbi Yaseh is Mekel, and they're both interpreting Rabbi Yochanan. And it follows that what they said up above here in this regarding this Mishnah is consistent. Where here also Rabbi Amir interprets interprets it more Mahmir, and Rabbi Yaseh more Mekel regarding the barrel, the stone that's on top of the barrel. Okay, and Itemar Rabbi Yosef ben Shaul Amar Sevar Shel Korotava. Now regarding the same, there seems to be a lot of confusion of what actually happened in that story. And so Rabbi Yosef says it wasn't stones that they wanted to sit on, but rather a stack of beams that they wanted to sit on. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Shaul Amar, no, it wasn't a stack of beams, it was Geshosh Shel Sefina, a sounding pole of a ship. This pole that you use, you stick it in the water to see how deep the water is, if you can go there. That's what he wanted to sit on Shabbat. Now, what's the difference between them? If you say a beam, then all the more, and that's allowed, then all the more so a sounding pole. One who says the beam is okay, he would say, fine, yes, the beam, but not the sounding pole. No, the sounding pole is an item that's a particular use that the sailor might be particular about and not want people to sit on it. In other words, might be something that's davar that's mukseh mechamat chesron kis, and so that would not be allowed. It could not be allowed. So the one who says that they were sitting on a sounding pole, for sure, he would agree also to allow if it's just a stack of beams. But if the one who says stack of beams would not agree with the opinion that it was a sounding pole. Okay, so that takes care of that first one about the barrel. Now we have the second case regarding the pitcher that's attached to a vine. Kishura says has to be attached. So kishura in, lo kishura la. Obviously has to be attached already from before Shabbat. If it was not attached, then the vine is just a vine. You can't go and attach it and use it. Right? That would seem to make sense. And if so, lema matnitin de la Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, then it looks like the Mishnah is not unanimous, and because Rabban Gamliel Shimon ben Rashbag would not agree with it. Where do we see the Rashbag? In the following Baraita, who says, I had some branches of palm trees. I cut them originally for firewood. I changed my mind. I decided I want to sit on them. I have to tie them first. Before Shabbat, I have to tie them up and I have to do something so that I can sit on them. The Rashbag, however, says, "En tzarich likshor." I don't have to do that. I just have them mine, and I just sit on them. So you see, just like he said here, I don't have to tie them up. I could just use it as is. So too, he would say here, I don't have to tie the vine to the pitcher. I could just tie before Shabbat. I could tie it on Shabbat and use it as is. And so that would contradict the Mishnah, because our Mishnah says it has to be tied. So looks like Rashbag would not agree with our Mishnah, which is possible. Well, as much as we can, we try to make the Mishnah unanimous. So Rav Sheshad comes to the rescue. He says, "Afilu tema Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. Hacha b'may askinan b'mchumberet be'abiha." The problem here is that the case here in our Mishnah is that it was attached. The vine is still attached to its roots. It's still attached to the ground, and that's why it would. And even Rashbag, who generally says it doesn't have to be attached to the pitcher, he would agree with the Mishnah in this case. Okay. So this is why. Okay. Hold on. If that's the case, it's still attached to the ground. There's another gezerah. You can't use anything attached to the ground. Gezerah, you might come and pluck things from it. Like you can't climb a tree or anything like that. So that can't be the case. No, we said lemata mishalosha. If it's under 3, if it was very low, then it's okay because you don't usually pull things off of that. This just might be a case where it's below 3. Rav Ashi says afilu tema betilusha gezerah shema yiktom. No, I could even say it's not attached vine. That's kind of far-fetched to say it has to be attached. It's not an attached vine, and here the rabbis did make a gezerah that this vine that is not attached, I can't use because you might come to cut it because you want it to be a certain size when you're using it for the bucket. However, that gezerah does not apply. Does not apply to the ones that you're sitting on for firewood because then you don't have to cut it to be a certain size. And so now we've explained everything. Everyone agrees that if the vine is attached to the pitcher, then it's okay to use. But if it's not attached, everyone agrees that you cannot use it. And the Rashbag is more machmir in our Mishnah to say you can't use it, either because it's still attached to the ground or because there's a gezerah that you may come to cut it to size. But Rashbag is mekel regarding the palm trees to sit on them because there's no reason, either they're not attached to the ground or there's no reason to make a gezerah. And we'll end with one last paragraph regarding the last case of the oven, the shutters that you're putting into the window. Amar Baba Bar Chanan is explaining the reasoning behind that. Everyone agrees you can't go and build a tent, even if it's temporary. You can't, still violating building. You can't build a tent on Yom Tov or on Shabbat. So everyone agrees with that. What they do argue about is adding something more to something that's already made. Eliezer says, I cannot add something. And so he feels like putting the window shutter in, if it's not attached already, then that's adding something to a building process. He said, no, it's not a problem of adding something when it's a temporary structure. And the window shutter is a temporary item because eventually you take it off. And so that's why Chamim are mekel in this case. And so tomorrow we will continue analyzing the case of the putting the shutters in the window.